Now, I have a lot to say. Now, listen to my words and take them by heart, and bear in mind all my words uttered overtly. So in the light of goodwill, honesty, and good virtue, do our best for the advance of the people all over the world. Cyrus the Great, who is referred to as a just king in the Holy Quran, founded the Achaemenian government. Plato, the renowned Greek philosopher, praised him for being just, his management, and peacefulness. He conquered Babylon peacefully and freed over 10,000 Jews from slavery. They blessed him after daily prayers. Then he wrote a charter that is known as the First Declaration of Human Rights. This charter was written on a baked cylinder and kept in British Museum. It shines as a sign above all human civilization.
من با صلح و دوستی به بابل وارد شدم. در عین شعف و شادی مردم کاخ پادشاهان و جایگاه سلطنت را تصرف کردم. سپاهیان بیشمار من با آرامش به بابل وارد شدند. من بردهداری را برانداختم. من از خرابی خانه های آنها مانع شدم. من نگذاشتم اهالی از هستی ساقط شوند. همه مردم را گرد آوردم و در خانه هایشان از نو مستقر کردم. من برای همه جهانیان جامعه آرام مهیا ساختم. منم کوروش، شاه شاهان، شاه سومر و اکت، شاه بابل، شاه دادگر، پسر کمبوجیه.
Nestled in a plain in modern-day Iran are the remnants of a fabulous ancient city, Persepolis. Built some 2,500 years ago, it was known in its heyday as the richest city under the sun. Seized and burned by Alexander the Great's conquering army, shaken by uncounted earthquakes, damaged by 25 centuries of rain and fluctuating temperatures, Persepolis, the greatest of the royal residences of Persia, is now an ancient ruin. Yet today, thanks to recent works by some of the most renowned archaeologists and experts on Achaemenid art and history, and a touch of imagination, we've been able to recreate the halls and palaces of Persepolis in all their dazzling splendor. Perhaps we can now see why Persepolis was once known as the richest city under the sun. The Achaemenid Persia occupies a very important place among the great civilizations of the ancient world. Two centuries before Alexander was born, the Persians formed the largest empire the world had ever seen. Cyrus, a Persian chieftain and one of those rare leaders towards whom one cannot help but gravitate, laid the foundation of a very unique empire which was built on a model of tolerance and respect for other cultures and religions. So much so that the Old Testament regards Cyrus as the savior of the Jews from Babylonian captivity. And Xenophon, the 4th century BC. After Cyrus, Darius the Great elevated the Persian Empire to its zenith. The empire now extended from the borders of India in the east to Greece on the Mediterranean, down to Egypt and Ethiopia in Africa, and up to what is now Russia and Eastern Europe. 28 different nations were brought together under the rule of a man who was hailed as the King of Kings. To administer this vast empire, the Achaemenid kings established not one but 4 capital cities in various strategic locations: Babylon, Susa, Ecbatana, and finally the most magnificent of them all, Parsa, or as the Greeks called it, Persepolis. Persepolis was founded around 518 BC. At first, a huge platform covering more than 125,000 square meters was created from giant blocks of stone. Then the majestic structures were gradually built and expanded in the span of more than 50 years during the reigns of Darius and his successors, Xerxes and Artaxerxes I. Thus, Persepolis was not a military or political capital. It was first and foremost a majestic ceremonial complex where representatives of 28 nations and satrapies of the Persian Empire gathered and celebrated the highest feasts in the presence of the king. The formal presentation of gifts confirmed the loyalty of the subject nations and the power of the king. The procession towards the king followed a specific route through the complex, intended to
never seen before. Each visitor would then proceed towards this astonishing monument.
Access to the complex was through the Gate of All Nations. 2 gigantic bulls reminded the guests that they were entering the heart of the Persian Empire. Every visitor in ancient times who was allowed to enter this hall must have been in total awe. The dignitaries and delegates who had come from all over the empire assembled here and were seated on a glittering bench of black, marble-like stone. Then the military officials were guided to pass through the eastern gate and proceed towards the 100-column hall. while the gift-bearing dignitaries were ushered towards the great audience hall. Each delegation was guided by a Median or a Persian official towards the royal audience hall, or Apadana. Crossing this vast imperial platform, the dignitaries who came from the four corners of the empire approached the largest and most splendid palace of the royal complex. A series of steps in the north and east provided access to the hall.
Then, passing through the giant doors that were 18 meters high, he would enter the huge audience hall. He can see a forest of columns, the multicolour carpets on the floor, the beautiful decoration of the walls.
خدای بزرگ است اهورا مزدا که این زمین را آفرید، که آن آسمان را آفرید، که مردم را خلق کرد و به مردم شادی داد. میل من آن است به آنچه که راست است. انسان دروغگو را دوست نیستم.
Seated on his throne,
splendid atmosphere and beautiful ornamentations of this hall must have astonished everyone. There is no force or enmity. This atmosphere of peace and harmony is portrayed especially at Tripylon, where noblemen are depicted holding hands and chatting with one another. The Tripylon Palace was probably used by Achaemenid kings to hold council with high-ranking Persian and Median noblemen and state officials. It's therefore named by some experts as the Council Hall. Most of these noblemen carry lotus-like blossoms or flowers, while others hold round objects like apples or coloured eggs, all of which are to this day treasured and associated with the Nowruz or New Year festival.
The columns were all black marble stone with bell-shaped foundation and torus with the capitals in the form of double-headed bulls. It was a splendid monument of the ancient time.
This hall, also known as the Throne Hall, occupied an area of 4,600 square meters and could accommodate hundreds of dignitaries and military officials, as shown on its two northern door jambs. Here we can see 50 military officials, once shown from the left and once from the right. They add up to 100 officials who hold the throne. These are actually the military backbone of the empire and provide an exact analogy to the 100 columns of the hall. Persepolis was the ceremonial capital of the largest empire the world had ever seen. Darius the Great thus described it, "And I made it adequate, secure, and beautiful." But the beauty and splendor of Persepolis lasted only for 2 centuries. Its majestic audience halls and residential areas perished in flames when Alexander and his Macedonian army conquered and looted the city and its Acropolis in 330 BC.
Alexander was a Macedonian. He first subdued the Greeks, and then, pretending to be a Greek, he came here destroying the Persian Empire.
When Alexander came from Macedonia, he was fully aware of the importance of Persepolis as the symbol of Achaemenid power, as well as its wealth and riches.
Starting from the destruction of the city of Parsa, killing and slaughtering its people, plundering its houses, then he came here and set fire to the palaces of Persepolis.